Which accounts should you fill up first? With so many accounts you should be contributing to, in what order do you prioritize them so that your money has the most impact? I don't believe in one optimal order for everyone, but I do believe that there are general guidelines that you can tweak for your situation. These levels assume that you have a positive cash flow, that you have some amount of money left over each month after expenses that you get to figure out what to do with. The base level, and what I tell people to do before anything else, is to save $1,000 in a high yield savings account. This is the beginning of your emergency fund, and it's money set aside so you don't get derailed if something unexpected comes up. After you have $1,000 in your emergency fund, there are 3 places I would consider putting your money first. It's up to you whether you work towards these 3 at the same time or address them sequentially one at a time. First on this level of priority is paying off any high interest debt. I think about this as any debts with an interest rate over 5%. Most commonly, this is credit card debt, but it could also be things like a personal loan or a private student loan. Next is your 401k match. If you have one, that's part of your compensation package, so you're leaving some of your salary on the table if you don't contribute enough to your 401k or other workplace retirement plan to get that. Do make sure you know your company's 401k vesting period though, because that's what determines how much of your employer's contribution you actually get to keep. For example, you could have a 3-year cliff where if you leave the company before 3 years, you don't get to keep any of the employer match. Or it could be gradual, where you get to keep more and more of your employer's contributions each year. And these rules just apply to the employer match, not money you contribute from your salary into the account. You always get to keep all of that. But anything you contribute to your 401k isn't going to be money you can access now. And you might need more than $1,000 set aside to cover the unexpected. So at this point, consider filling up your emergency fund to be 3 to 9 months of living expenses. I also suggest reminding yourself of all of your insurance deductibles and make sure your emergency fund target amount is close to or higher than your highest deductible, because you could be paying that much out of pocket. These days, I cap my emergency fund at $12,000, but yours could be very different depending on your expenses, how stable your income is, and what you're comfortable with. Just don't go crazy and make it too big, because your money could be growing a lot faster in some of these other buckets. When you move on to level 3, you'll have knocked out any high interest debt, claimed any free money from your workplace retirement plan, and built up your emergency fund so you have a comfortable buffer. If you have a high deductible health plan, or HDHP, you'll also be able to contribute to a health savings account, or HSA. This is an amazing account because it combines the tax benefits of the Roth IRA and 401k into one account. I would try to max it out before you move on from this level, assuming that you're planning to use it as a long-term investment account, which is what I do with my old HSA and what I recommend doing. And the yearly contribution limit is relatively low, at least for individuals, compared to the other tax-advantaged accounts we'll cover in the next step. So maxing it out is less likely to preclude you from contributing to other accounts. But a word of caution. Only sign up for an HDHP if it's the type of health plan that makes the most sense for you, not just because it gives you access to the health savings account. I made that mistake and I won't do it again, so I don't contribute to an HSA anymore. This tier is also where I would consider what my short-term savings goals are, roughly anything in the next 3 years. Why here? Because by definition, there's not that much time before you'll want to have the money for these goals, so it's worth considering how much ideally you would want to save each month toward them. Instead of having separate accounts, to simplify things, I pool my savings for these into one high-yield savings account that I automatically contribute to each month. I end up dipping into that when a large expense isn't covered by my monthly cash flow, and this is a separate high-yield savings account from my emergency fund. This is likely someplace you'll have to do some prioritization. For example, if you want to buy a house in 3 years, that could be a really hefty lump sum. If you take the down payment, divide it by how many months you have until then, and that number is equal to or more than the amount of cash flow you have each month, then you'll have to consider if you want to put all of that towards your down payment goal. you'll probably want to save some portion of your cash flow for level 4. In level 4, you charge up your long-term growth using tax-advantaged accounts. This is your Roth IRA, your 401k, and if you plan to have educational costs in the future, a 529 plan or any other similar educational plan. I'm not going to go into the details in this video, but these are all investment accounts that offer different types of tax savings that let your money go farther than it would in a regular taxable brokerage account. The maximum amount you can contribute to your Roth IRA in the year 2024 is $7,000, and the 401k's limit is a whopping $23,000. So this is a significant amount of money that you can sock away in places that allow you to save taxes on that money, and that makes a huge difference in how much you end up with after decades. There's definitely an argument for not moving on to the next level until you've maxed out all of the tax-advantaged accounts you have access to, but I'm an advocate for peeking ahead to see if it might make sense based on your priorities to contribute to a taxable brokerage account. Put simply, what you lose in tax benefits, you gain in flexibility. This type of account has no restrictions on when you can put in and take out money, so it's ideal for goals that you'll need money for before 59 and a half. At this stage, you might also want to consider paying off any low interest debt whose interest rate is under 5%. For me, this was all of my student loans. When I graduated, I hated the idea of being in any debt at all, and I treated low interest debt as if it was in level 2 actually. My parents are very debt averse, and I think that seeped into me. I didn't really internalize how having a 3% interest rate on your debt is okay if you're making more than 3% by investing what you would have used to pay off that debt early. But I do think that based on how you feel about any specific debt you owe, the peace of mind of paying off that debt is worth something. So even if it's not 100% optimal math-wise, it can still be the best next place to put your money. And you might feel differently about, say, your student loans versus a home mortgage. And that's why this diagram isn't a straight one-by-one list. I don't think about it completely linearly, and the exact order differs based on your situation. Levels 1 and 2 are different from the rest in the sense that you complete them in order, then move on. These two are about contributing to your emergency fund, and once that's done, you're done. You can turn off those automated transfers until you use your emergency fund and need to replenish it. Then 401k match, you set it up with your HR department if you have it, and you never see that money in your checking account. And high interest debt, you pay what you owe and try not to have any again. But levels 3 through 5, for most people, are going to be more ongoing and fluid, and you'll probably be tweaking your contributions to these as your priorities change and the accounts you have access to change. Of course, the ideal situation is that you have enough to fully fund your short-term goals, max out any of these accounts with yearly caps, and still have some left over for level 5. And if you're there now, congratulations. This can feel like a lot, but something that I like to remind myself of is it's not all or nothing. For example, say you don't have an HSA. This might look like contributing $50 a month to short-term goals, maxing out your Roth IRA, which is no joke at $583 a month, and putting any leftover monthly cash flow into your 401k. How much you're contributing to each type of account will change as you go through different seasons of life. The most important thing is that you're funding accounts that make sense to you for your goals and where you're at. And if you're anything like me, learning about this can motivate you to find ways to increase your income and reduce your expenses so you can have more cash flow each month to progress through these levels and feel secure about where your money is going. Oh, and be sure to automate all of your contributions so you only have to decide once and you don't waste willpower on something that can happen automatically, because it might not happen. Happy saving, happy saving, happy saving, happy saving, and investing too. And investing, and we like investing. Happy saving, happy investing too. Yeah.